Welcome to the ADHD podcast. I'm Shane Thrapp of Creating Order from Chaos.
And I'm Braden Young of Power ADHD Solutions.
All right, so this episode is about something that most of us don't really realize that we're doing it until we stop and look or when it's pointed out. And when that happens, we feel a lot of guilt about it. And that thing is that we often live parallel to our kids instead of with them. Same house, same family, but we kind of stay in separate lanes. I need everybody to understand that these aren't big failures or anything like that. This is kind of just the default setting that many of us developed because of how we were raised. Think about the hobby that you do after the kids go to bed instead of showing them when they're awake, or the passion project that you're working on that never really gets mentioned at the dinner table, or the party where you're actually in the room but not really in it. You know what I mean? A lot of the stuff that we could do could really include them, or we could find ways to include ourselves in what they're doing. We just don't think to invite them in. And honestly, there's a big part of this gets missed with ADHD and ADHD brains. We're kind of built for this kind of inclusion if we stop fighting the training that we've had throughout all of our lives.
Yeah, I think that chaos that we often see, I think our automatic response a lot of times is to try and escape it. And by either going to our phones or going and focusing on whatever other hobbies we have or just zoning out from it. And I think that that's a big missed opportunity for us. One example I have is we had our son's birthday party last week, and one thing I noticed is that a lot of the dads we were at a gymnastics center, and a lot of the dads were just kind of zoning out on their phones the whole time, not really paying attention to their kids or anything. While at the same time, I was down playing with the kids and just pretending to be a big zombie monster walking around. There were some kids coming up and asking their dads to join in, and the dads weren't really responding. And I don't necessarily think it's because they didn't want to. I think it's because they were overwhelmed with all the chaos of all the playing kids, laughing, screaming, all of that. And their automatic thing was to go to their phones. But I think if they were to get down and really just embrace the chaos of our ADHD brains, because it can help us actually connect with our kids. And when we're immersed in the chaos, it becomes less chaotic for us.
Yeah, because for neurodivergent dads, parallel living often feels safer because there's that situation where it's kind of overwhelming. There's a lot of kids screaming. We may not fit, like we may be too big, we may be too tired to really get down there and dig and everything like that. But a lot of times, sometimes the kids just want us there and involved, and that can be stuff that where we can do it. There's plenty of times when I'm actually kind of just doing things with my kids, especially this is kind of, and we're going to talk about rough housing and things like that. But I'll be on my phone listening to an audiobook or something like that at the same time as playing with my kids. And it's important to understand that, yeah, our hobbies are where we regulate, and our alone time is where we recharge. And we do have this instinct to really protect that space, and that's real, and that's legitimate, and that we should have that space. But honestly, protection just doesn't have to mean exclusion. Like sensory regulation is real, and sometimes we genuinely need that quiet, that solo time, the decompression. Like that's not what we're really talking about here. The problem is that when every moment with our kids becomes something to recover from instead of something we can actually live inside.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point about actually listening to a podcast or whatever while playing with your kids, I think that in a lot of ways, that's kind of the beauty of our ADHD brains too, right? Because our brains can literally be doing multiple things at once. It could be recharging while we're creating core memories for our kids because we're also playing with them. And we can be thinking about and doing different things while we're doing that. And I think that's really important that keep we don't necessarily exclude them, but we actually include them in some of the things that we're doing to decompress, because that also shows them that it's okay.
A lot of the neurotypical dads out there, they honestly try to manage the chaos, especially if they don't like really deal with ADHD or they don't really understand ADHD and things of that nature. But the things that us as neurodivergent fathers can do is we can live inside that. Because honestly, even neurotypical kids live inside that chaos. Like that's their native environment. And we have the capability and the understanding and the impulsivity and the hyperactivity to honestly get down there with them. And this gives us a lot of space to be able to be a lot more connected with our kids. Because like I love video games. I'm 44 years old and I get really excited about a lot of these different things that come out. And that's not a bug. And my kids, honestly, they get an opportunity to see that because there's a lot of games out there that I can play and they can watch and they can interact with because like recently like my kids and I got into the Harry Potter series and we watched all 8 videos all together. And now I get to play Hogwarts Legacy with them, and they're making decisions in the game. It's not me. Like my daughter got to design the character. My son gets to make decisions on like, am I going after this one or am I going after this one? I give them these choices, and then along the way, I'm also explaining to them about the button configurations and how to use that. My son just got into Super Mario Odyssey, and so I'm getting to watch him like get really good at that. And I'm like, all right, hey, yeah, you should watch this YouTube video. It talks about it, and like that's actually a thing I can watch with him and enjoy it with him. This is okay because one of the like things our kids need to learn is to be exposed to all these different things that they could do. This is how they explore the world. This is how they like find the interest. And they also, if they have ADHD or ADHD or autism themselves, they need to be able to understand that, like, yeah, you could pick up as a hobby and then put it down a little bit later and then pick it up later on, or maybe it just goes away. And that's okay. Our kids need to be able to explore the world and find out who they are. And having the way that our brains works, where we're constantly curious about new things, that's a place where we can take our kids on exploration with us. We aren't stuck in one lane. Like exploring is valuable on its own. Now, we are often taught that, and we see a lot of this happen in our households where somebody has the 50-year collection of baseball cards and things of that nature. But that's not necessarily how it has to be. For a kid, having 10 things or trying out 10 things and loving two is really how you find the connection. We do this all the time, so why not work on this with our kids?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's really about embracing our neurodivergence, right? As opposed to trying to fight it, because I think most of our lives we were taught that we needed to fight it, and we really need to lead by example in that case. And I think that being able to jump in and embrace that chaos, I really like your example with the Harry Potter thing because it reminds me of like while my daughter was growing up and everything, she and I got really into like all of the Legend of Zelda stuff and everything. And we went through like all of the games and I would help her get through it. And there was parts I remember in like Ocarina of Time when like you get the like the graveyard area and you got like the zombies that would like do the scream thing and that just freaked her out and everything and she would always come up and have me like play that for her because she didn't want to go through it herself. But like it also teaches that it gives us the opportunity for teaching moments too, because we can also teach that there's a strategy around everything. There's always a solution to a problem. And I love games like that where we can kind of throw a lesson in to help our kids with that. And so being able to embrace that chaos and create those moments for our kids is really important. And I think that another part of our neurodivergent brains, that's really important is to keep in mind the creativity aspect of it too, because being able to work on whether it's art projects or come up with creative ways of playing with them can also be teaching moments as well, because that teaches them the critical thinking skills that are needed in life in general. And that's something that we can really shine in. And it can show them that they also have those opportunities to shine as well. So now I think that, and another thing that we can also do is start recognizing what our kids are into as well. In the last month or so, my son shifted his special interest to large ocean liners like the Titanic and its sister ships and things like that, and the history behind it, what happened to them. And I was never really interested in that stuff myself, but seeing him get so interested in it allowed me to kind of deep dive in along with him and start learning with him and start giving him the history lessons along with it. And man, that kid has eaten it up. And it's been educational for both of us, in all honesty. So I think it's really important that we kind of pay attention to what our kids are interested to and find a way to get into it and create those moments as well.
Show them your stuff that you enjoy doing. If you're into woodworking, one of my wife's favorite stories about her dad is him just inviting her into the garage to be there while he's working on woodworking. Not to get her to be involved, even though she did become involved and is actually a pretty decent woodworker herself, but just to ask questions. And like it's not a lecture. Like we're not teaching our kids about these things. We're just living it in front of them. And if they do ask the questions, we just be open to it. And get it like I remember things that my dad used to say to me that really hurt my feelings as a kid. Some of the worst things that we can do as fathers is like if our kids are asking us that kind of questions, us just say, not really doing anything, or you wouldn't get it, and kind of belittling our kids. Like passing on passions is not really the same as projecting them. I honestly am really looking forward to when my kids are old enough to play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not really going to force it. I may take some of these modules that are out there that are built for younger kids and kind of develop it with them and see if that's something that they enjoy doing. I'm fairly certain they're going to enjoy doing it, to be completely truthful. But what I can do is let them see me in my element and let them choose what lights them up about it. Another thing that we can do is if we are watching a TV show that's appropriate for our kids, hey, y'all who still watch anime and old school cartoons, I'm talking to y'all. This is a good place for your kids to experience you and your childhood and the things that you love. Now, granted, some of the anime and stuff like that's out there is probably not appropriate, but at the same time, figure out what is appropriate and let your kids watch it with you. Watching stuff in on the TV together is connection. And one of the things that my daughter was doing yesterday just really lit me up was we were just watching TV together. She was watching, I think, My Little Ponies, I believe. And I just was on my phone, and but we were on the sofa and cuddled up together and snuggling and just spending time connecting with each other. And that's not lazy parenting. It's a shared language. And I think it's really important for everybody to understand that.
Last week, I was reintroducing my son to Transformers, which I tried to do that when he was little because Transformers were one of my obsessions, like when I was a kid. And he wasn't really interested in it when he was little, but I think now he sees that, oh, wait, I like vehicles. These are robots that turn into vehicles. And he also likes crashing and exploding things. And what do the Transformers do a lot of? Crash and explode things. So being able to actually like have those connections with our kids and showing them the things that we were interested in as kids, that can bring back the nostalgia of it as well as create that bond.
So, kind of connecting with that one, my kids love crashing cars. And it reminded me that Burnout 3 has a remake that came out a few years ago. And I don't
Mhm.
know if anybody knows this about Burnout 3, but it's a game where you literally crash your car, and like the worse that you crash your car, the more points that you get. And you should have seen the look on my kid's face when they saw me just like slamming through and like rolling the car. And I'm like, I'm doing this, but at the same time, I'm going like making sure I'm also saying this is unsafe stuff for people to do in real cars, but on a video game, it's totally fine. And I'm like, 197,000. You scored a B. And I'm like, yes.
I need to keep that game in mind because I know that my son would be all over that. So,
Kind of remember that, everyone. Especially kind of making sure that things are age appropriate and that we're being safe and things like that. But like, it's important that we it's okay to include our kids into a lot of this stuff. But some other stuff that we can think about including into this is also recognizing the importance of things like roughhousing. Like, hey, we're dads, this is kind of our thing, y'all. We get to roughhouse, but we do need to kind of make sure that it's safe and things like that. But there's a lot of research that shows that like roughhousing with your neurodivergent kids and neurotypical kids as well is great for proprioceptive regulation. Wrestling, pillow fights, chasing, playing tag, tossing them on the couch. This honestly regulates their nervous systems and ours at the same time. This is co-regulation through movement. And it is important that we're not power bombing our kids through a bed. Like my buddy did this to his sister when or we were younger, like broke a slat in the bed because he power bombed her so hard. This does need to be a little bit more age appropriate and safe and things like that, but we and making sure that we're checking in with the kids. But also we can be more involved in bedtime. One of the rules in my household is that I usually take care of putting on pajamas and picking out clothes for the next day, whereas my wife does the bed reading and things of that nature. I'm gonna tell you right now, like picking out pajamas and picking out clothes for the next day involves a lot of roughhousing. I'm throwing the kids around. We have a new game where like they'll hang on my back and then they'll just like hang for a little bit and then just drop straight off my back and I'm supposed to let go of them. Like there's definitely been some accidents that have happened where dropped Liam on top of Harley and like heads clunked and like, oh, whoop, well, hold on a second. Let's pause. Everybody okay? But this is one of those things that's really good just before bed. And I know that a lot of us don't like really being involved in homework and stuff, but it is important for us to be involved. Like, none of this is really glamorous, and none of this is going to make a good Instagram post or anything like that, but this is the stuff that builds actual relationships.
I think it's important to note that sometimes just being present is really important for our kids. And to the tune of the roughhousing and stuff, yeah, we regulate it, but that's what we do as parents. We know how to keep it safe-ish. But there has to be a point where, honestly, I think it's healthy to blur the line a little bit because it kind of teaches our kids where the line is as well, right? And yeah, we're not like hurting our kids or trying to hurt our kids or anything like that. We want to keep them safe, but being able to see what their limits are is really important because that teaches them where, okay, this is going a little bit too far. I'm going to hurt myself if I do this, but I can also push myself a little bit and they can start to see and realize that it's okay to push their own limits a little bit to see how far they can go. And having that kind of proprioceptive response and development in their brain helps teach them things like, honestly, it's building the muscle for emotional regulation as well for them. And that's really important.
I mean, it's also teaching them how to roughhouse and check in on their friends too. Like they
Yep.
do learn how to safely roughhouse, and they do learn that it's important when one of them says stop that the other person stops. This is something as fathers we need to do. If our kids tell us to stop and everything, or if they don't want us to do that certain thing, then let's respect their boundaries and not do that certain thing. I think it's important to understand that a lot of what we're talking about isn't just for our kids, though. This is also really valuable for our partners. Like, because every time we default into our own lane, our partner is the person that's going to pick up the slack. They're going to be the ones that are doing the coloring, or they're going to be managing the event, or they're going to handle the emotional load. When we include our kids in our world and show up in theirs, we're not just connecting with the kids, we're tagging our partner in on the relationship instead of leaving them to run it alone.
For me, this really takes off when it comes to our routine is alternating nights. So one night is dad's night where he's taking care of the kids, doing bath time, doing bedtime routine, all of that. And the next is my wife's night. And the nights where she gets to actually have her time is are really important to her because I think that our partners a lot of times end up picking up a lot of slack and then that builds resentment over time if we don't give them a break. And so having that time with our kids gives them the chance to have their own time and break as well. So this also plays into the whole parent-child dynamic that we talked about in the therapy episode. It's not in the big moments, it's in the small ones. Every time we stay in our lane instead of sharing one, we're teaching our partner that parenting is their job and we'll visit sometimes. That resentment can compound over time. And so being present with your kids is one of the most loving things that we can do for our partner as well. It's not a trade, it's a gift.
Yeah. I need everybody to understand though, dads who live parallel to their kids aren't bad dads. We're not judging any of y'all for this stuff. Many of y'all love your kids as much as anyone, but love that stays in its own lane doesn't feel like love to a kid. It feels like absence. What I want y'all to really work on moving forward is starting with just like one thing. Bring them into one thing that you love. And if you are the father of a child who's very young, think about ways that you can bring your child into the things that you love in age appropriate ways. Stay for one bedtime that where you would have skipped. Try something new and together and let it be messy. That's how this changes. One thing.
I mean, every little bit is still forward momentum. So we don't have to start big. We don't suddenly have to try and be active in every single little thing. But it is important that I think we be involved and really start embracing that chaos that we've spent so long trying to avoid and or escape from. Because one thing that we are great at is when we're in the chaos, we can really shine and it becomes less chaotic for us. It becomes the norm for us to be involved. And that's going to be really important for us. So thank you everybody for listening and like, subscribe, comment, click all the things, and we'll see you next time.